The year is 2025, and Paul Finebaum is still wrong about everything.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one, welcome all to another episode of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets free if your first $5 bet wins. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On Illini, where I continue to provide you coverage daily. That's right, every single day. No such thing as off-season here at Locked On. Only thing I ask for in return is if you can hit that like button, just lets me know that you guys are watching. And that way I know to keep churning out these episodes each and every day. Today's episode, it's something that kind of bothered me over the weekend. It's something that I've had issues with kind of in the past, and so I kind of want to address it. I want to deep dive a little bit, do a little proper research, and then bring forth that research to this audience. It all started with Paul Finebaum taking a shot at Bret Bielema this past weekend, calling his Arkansas tenure a failure and questioning whether he should be talking at all. I have a few thoughts about that, and we're going to set the record straight. Because if you actually look at what Bielema did at Arkansas, what he was trying to build, and the job that he's doing now at Illinois, I just don't think Paul Finebaum is telling the whole story. So let's talk about that for a second. Paul was on the Triple Option podcast and reacting to some comments that Bret Bielema made last week about the transfer portal, specifically about losing a player. And let's be honest, he strongly implied that there may have been tampering going on. Now, whether or not you agree with Bielema's claims, Finebaum went straight for the jugular. And I quote, "I would be more concerned about achieving success on the field to avoid facing the same fate he encountered at Arkansas, rather than making unsupported claims that he has no chance of substantiating." That's a shot, not just at Illinois. That's him basically saying, hey, this guy failed at Arkansas. Maybe he should just keep quiet. So today, are we keeping quiet? No. Again, I'm not going to be name calling. This is not necessarily just about hot takes. This is going to be a segment where I try to produce facts. Because, I'll correct myself in the opening. Paul Finebaum's not wrong about everything, but I truly do believe he's being, if not wrong, dishonest about whether Bret Bielema's tenure at Arkansas was a failure. So let's break it down. When Bret got to Arkansas in late 2012, the Razorbacks were in complete, absolute chaos. Petrino was out after the scandal. John L. Smith had just gone 4-8. The locker room was unstable. The roster was thin. And the SEC West, a straight up war zone. So when Finebaum or anyone criticizes what Bielema did or didn't do there, I just need to pause for a second and ask, do they actually remember the situation that Bret Bielema walked into? This wasn't Wisconsin. This was a rebuild, an extreme rebuild, full stop. And he didn't take it because it was comfortable. He took it because he was confident and he wanted the challenge. So how did year one go? Very ugly, but very necessary. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. 2013, he was bad. 3-9, they went winless in the SEC. But Bret Bielema, being the professional that he is, he never flinched. He didn't scapegoat his players. He didn't whine. He owned it. And behind the scenes, he was starting to lay the foundations. Accountability, culture, toughness, recruiting the right type of guys. Not just stars, but character. That's the first brick. And he didn't try to cut corners in laying them. So let's fast forward to 2014. And you start to see the fruits of his labor. Arkansas goes 7-6, but more importantly, they pull off something that had never been done before. They shut out number 17 LSU and number 8 Ole Miss back to back. That's not just an impressive stat, that's an incredibly historic stat. The first unranked team ever to blank 2 ranked opponents in consecutive games. Then, in the Texas Bowl, they demolished Texas. Bielema calls it borderline erotic, and let's be real, that was peak Razorback pride. In 2015, even better, 8-5, 5-3 in the SEC. They beat Tennessee. They beat Auburn. They beat Ole Miss in that wild overtime game. And you know what people forget? They were competitive in every single one of those games. And again, keep in mind what the SEC West looked like in his day and age. That was a real football team. That team had a clear identity, pound the rock, control the line of scrimmage, play smart. It looked, quite honestly, like a Wisconsin team in SEC colors, and it worked. And here's the part that Paul just is not acknowledging, and he never acknowledges. Bielema was building a culture there. He was obsessed with character. He literally rejected recruits over their Twitter behavior, not their 40 time, their attitude, because he knew talent without culture is just chaos. He upgraded the nutrition program, introduced mental training, taught players how to work like pros. It wasn't flashy, but it mattered. And you didn't hear Razorback players getting into trouble under Bret Bielema. That says something. Keep in mind, just take a look at the landscape of the SEC now. Speaking of it now, we've got to talk about context. People love to throw out the 29-34 record like it proves something. But when they don't mention is that Bielema was, again, competing against Saban, Miles, Malzahn, Hugh Freeze during the Ole Miss surge, and even Dan Mullen at Mississippi State when they were a top 15 team. This wasn't the ACC. This wasn't a weak Pac-12. This was the SEC West at its full powers. So when Bret Bielema wins 7 or 8 games, that's not mediocre. That's overachieving. Most coaches in that spot get chewed up and spit out. He fought, and his teams never quit. Yes, 2017 was a rough ending. Injuries, people got hurt, close games didn't go their way. He finished the season 4-8 and is let go. But the story doesn't stop there. Chad Morris comes in, the next coach, and it's a disaster. The next 2 years, 4 wins total, 0 SEC wins, 0 culture, 0 progress. Arkansas fans will tell you that's when they hit bottom, not when Bret Bielema was in charge. It was after Bret Bielema. And it wasn't until Sam Pittman, who, by the way, is Bret Bielema's former offensive line coach, took over, that they somewhat stabilized. And even Pittman will tell you that part of what he's built is what he learned from Bret Bielema and what Bret started. Fast forward to now. Bielema's at Illinois, a program that has been historically down, a program that has been historically running thin. And what does he do? All he does is win. He develops pros. He gets us into bowl contention. He has us knocking off Penn State and Wisconsin and hopefully competing for Big Ten championships. This man can coach, period. As my good friend Big Ten Ted says, Bret Bielema was put on this earth to coach Big Ten football. So when Finebaum questions his credibility, he's not just downplaying what happened at Arkansas. I think he's ignoring a significant part of what happened and what's happening today in Champaign. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say Bret's tenure at Arkansas was perfect. I'm not even going to lie to you and say that it was a success. He made mistakes. He will tell you that himself. But to use his tenure as a punchline, that's just being lazy. He took a real tough job, and he gave it everything he had. He built something real and left it better than he found it. That, to me, is a legacy. And to me, that deserves more respect than what Paul Finebaum was giving him. Again, this is a touchy topic for me because when we were looking to hire our next head coach and I heard Bret Bielema's name mentioned, I was not interested. Not at all. He was one of those guys who, because I didn't do any research into what happened at Arkansas, I didn't pay much attention to myself at the time. I was like, no, thank you. Bret failed, as Paul hinted. But it once the hire actually happened and I got to talk to some Razorback fans and neutral Razorback fans. I'm not saying all they had to say was roses. No, they were very impartial to say, hey, this is what Bret Bielema did wrong, but this is a long list of things that he really was doing right. And between the two jobs, he got to learn from some of the brightest minds in football. And now we see the success that Bret Bielema is having here today. So I will, and I urge you all, anytime you hear people talking about the disastrous Bret Bielema tenure at Arkansas, tell them to look at the facts. Bret Bielema's winning percentage is better than the two coaches that have followed him at Arkansas since. Look, I get it. Arkansas fans, like a lot of the SEC, they've got a lot of money. They've got past glory that they latch onto. And unfortunately, they don't realize that that may not be a realistic scenario in today's modern age. But having said all that, that's not Bret Bielema's fault. Whether his tenure was a success or whether his tenure was a failure, it doesn't matter. The path brought him down to Champaign, and I'll just say it. I'm eternally grateful. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the greens, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. Again, I've already told you guys, I've got my eyes locked on PCA on the Cubs. I have them at plus 8,000 and plus 5,500 to win the National League MVP. Right now, he's the second favorite, I believe, right behind Shohei Ohtani. So that's going to be something I'm going to be following along all summer long. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. And welcome back. Over the weekend, Io Tolliver's name was mentioned as a possible trade target for the Chicago Bulls. Casey Johnson, I believe, from the Chicago Sports Network, confirmed what many of us thought could be possible, that the Bulls could entertain the idea of trading the former Illini great. The move would be a part of a greater, large reshaping of the roster as Chicago continues to transition into a new era where they continue to not know what they're doing when it comes to putting a basketball team together. And while it may or may not make sense, this segment I'm going to talk a little bit about what his potential trade destinations could be, where Io is in his career for those of you who don't watch the NBA, and what maybe the Bulls can expect in return, and what Io's outlook looks like at his next potential destination. So let's start with the question, why, at least why now? Io's coming off one of the better years of his career. He averaged 12.3 points per game, 4.5 assists, and 3.5 rebounds, and nearly 50% shooting from the field. He was one of the bright spots on a stagnant Bulls offense. He plays both guard spots. He defends multiple positions. He does not complain, and he always tends to be making the smart play. So why move him? Simple. The Bulls are dumb. No. Okay, never mind. I scratched that part. I'll edit that part out. The backcourt is overcrowded. The recent trade that sent Lonzo Ball to Cleveland for Isaac Okoro, along with the addition of Josh Giddey, who I think they're going to be signing to an extension, and of course you already have Kobe White there. Well, that kind of means that Io is part of a very congested guard room. If the Bulls re-sign Trey Jones, something multiple outlets have floated, well, then Io becomes, at best, the fourth option in a three-man rotation. And then, more importantly, I think, there's the contract. Io's on a very team-friendly $7.5 million deal. That makes him one of the most tradable players in the league right now. Affordable, productive, and off the books after next season. Losing him for nothing in unrestricted free agency next summer would be a tough pill to swallow. So the Bulls are trying to avoid that. But here's the thing. Io isn't just an average player. I think he's a legit contributor. He started 61 games for Chicago last year. He guarded both point guards and wings and gave you reliable minutes every single night. His efficiency continues to rise, and his assist numbers are steadily improving. He's the kind of player who could easily slot into the rotation of a playoff team and make an immediate impact. And for just $7.5 million, That's a steal. Multiple analysts, including Dan Favale from Breachler Report, have labeled Dosunmu the most likely Bull to be traded this offseason. Not because he's not good, but he's almost too good for the role and the contract that he has in Chicago right now. And it's just too attractive for other teams in the league to ignore. Now, where could he go? Several teams have surfaced as realistic landing spots. Some are contending now, others are retooling, like Chicago is, but all have one thing in common. They need a player like Io. So according to a list by my friends at the Writing Illini, the number one team that they have listed is the Houston Rockets. The Rockets are suddenly short on guard depth, and after a flurry of offseason movement, they've got Fred VanVleet and not much else. Io could walk into a six-man role or even start alongside Fred, giving Houston another two-way guard with upside. Maybe the Milwaukee Bucks, that would hurt, but it's kind of logical. The Bucks are shallow behind Damian Lillard and could use a younger guard who can defend and make plays and doesn't demand the ball. Iowa would give them insurance in case Lillard's durability continues to decline. And with Milwaukee's proximity to Chicago, it makes the move very, very simple. Also listed were other playoff teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves or even potentially the Orlando Magic. Any squad that needs an affordable, defensive-minded guard who can shoot just well enough and run an offense in spurts could see Io as a perfect plug-and-play piece. Again, thank you to the Writing Illini for that list. So what could the Bulls get in return? Io's not going to bring back a lottery pick, but I do think he should command some decent value. A late first rounder, a young bench player with upside, a veteran expiring contract to match salaries, any of those could be in play. And here's the wild card. Chicago doesn't have to trade him solo. There's buzz that the Bulls could include Io in a larger deal, something that brings back maybe a stretch big or a high upside swing, positions of clear need on that roster. He could be a part of a package that helps Chicago finally move on from Vucevic's contract or bring in another first rounder in 2026 or 2027. But as Illini fans, here's where it gets kind of personal. Io Dosunmu isn't just a name on the depth chart. He is Chicago. He started at Morgan Park. He turned down the Blue Bloods to stay home and revive Illinois basketball. He led the Illinois Fighting Illini to a Big Ten title and a number one seed in the NCAA tournament. In my opinion, he might just be the most important Illini of this generation. And then he got drafted to play for his hometown team, and he played like he belonged there from day one. It just hurts trying to trade that guy without at least thinking twice. But here's the other side of it, and the side where I ultimately stand on. He deserves more. He deserves a bigger role. He deserves playoff minutes. He deserves to show the rest of the world that what we already know as Illini fans, that this kid is a winner. And if that opportunity doesn't exist in Chicago, and trust me, I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, it doesn't, then maybe a fresh start is what's best for him. Let's not lose sight of what's happening here. The Bulls are just not very good. Not bad, not awful, not great, just average. So the idea of Io moving on to his next destination and furthering his NBA career, and it gives Io a chance to just shine elsewhere, it's not betrayal, it's business. But for Illini fans and Bulls fans alike, it's still going to hurt a little bit. If Io is ultimately traded, and again, all signs seem to be heading in that direction, let's remember what he gave the city. He stayed home when he didn't have to. He put Illinois on his back and put it on the national map. He gave Bulls fans grit, defense, and heart when they desperately needed something to believe it. And now, whether it is Houston, Milwaukee, or somewhere else, he's going to bring that same fire to a new fan. As the NBA free agency heats up, keep an eye on here at Locked On Illini, and I'll keep you up to date as to what Io's future destination might look like. You tell me, have you been following along with Io or any of the other Illini that are in the NBA right now? Do you want him to stick around at home where it's theoretically easier to watch games, or are you ready to have him move on to another organization that, quite honestly, at least knows what they're doing? I'd love to hear your comments in the chat. And welcome back. If you haven't already, please just hit that like button for me. It would do me a great favor, as it's going to share this sort of content with other Illini fans that may or may not be on YouTube or whatever your favorite audio platform might be. Speaking of audio platforms, it's Monday. If you don't mind, if you can leave me a 5-star review letting me know what you like and don't like about the show, just know that I'm eternally grateful that you guys continue to spend your off-season time with me here at Locked On. There's a link in the description if you want to join our Discord. We have over 300 Illini fans spread all across the country talking Illini sports all day, every day. Today we were discussing that EA Sports is producing a new college basketball game to tag with their college football game. So there's some excitement in the chat for there. Look, it's a way for you to not bother your non-Illini diehard family. Why not join a family of diehards in our Discord? Again, the link is in the description. A couple notes before I let you go today. Obviously, last week, Kasparas Yakuchonis and Will Riley were drafted. It looks like Kasparas is going to be eligible for a 4-year, $17.7 million contract. As for the very next pick, which was Will Riley at 21, he is in line for about 4 years, $17.2 million. Again, super excited for the future of those former Illini players. Speaking of former Illini players, Dane Dainja, unfortunately, was not able to get his waiver approved, and it looks like his college basketball career is over. Go be great, Dane. He was always a pleasure to watch. And lastly, on Tuesday, I believe, 3-star Owen Cabo is going to be making his announcement for where he's going to play college football next season. And while Illinois is listed as one of the potential teams, I'm not feeling very optimistic about it. Owen is from the South, and looks like Alabama has come on strong. And let's be honest, I'm getting kind of sick and tired of Alabama. They seemingly have won a lot of head-to-head battles with Illinois recently, and my suspicion is that they're going to win this one too. But again, if you're losing head-to-head battles against Alabama, that means that Alabama, arguably the greatest program of all time, wants the same type of players that you're interested in. And that's a good sign from where Illinois was just a couple years ago. So not exactly good news coming, I think, at least on the recruiting front. But if there are any updates, of course, there's no other place to be locked in besides right here at Locked On Illini. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings, and be the most informed fan of the rapid changes happening in the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you missed it last week, Thursday, we released a Big Ten squad. And usually, unfortunately, I can't make the timing work for me to be on those shows. But I was actually on it last week because we discussed Illinois and their over-under based off their schedule. Half the panel agreed with me. Half the panel didn't agree with me. Make sure you check it out. I'd love to hear your guys' comments. If you want to reach out to me, talkillini@gmail.com. I have daily conversations. I love to get feedback from you guys, whether it's positive or negative. All I ask is you keep it constructive. That's going to wrap it up for today. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.